How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to episode 7, I believe, of the Shot Clock podcast. And I have on Trey Fills, Greensboro Swarm G League player, as well as a Yale alum. So, Trey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just, enjoying my day, ready for the weekend. That's about much.
You've been in quarantine about 2 months now. Charlotte, you guys aren't lifted up there, correct?
You said what?
Charlotte, you guys, the quarantine's not lifted yet, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, they're moving into like phase 2 next week, so it's pretty much just like essential businesses and stuff like that.
Okay. So, are you going to plan on getting out a little bit more or no?
Man, honestly, nah. If it's not the gym or like the grocery store or something, I don't plan on no restaurants or parties or anything like that. I'm gonna stay home.
Yeah, how have you stayed in shape during quarantine? I mean, you mentioned going to the gym just now, but so have you kind of stayed in shape over this?
Yeah, that's been a challenge. It's been kind of different. It's really hard because nothing replicates playing basketball. You know, you can do sprints, you can run on the treadmill, but if you're not on the court and doing drills and moving around, um, it's really hard to kind of just keep up a game shape. But I've been focusing on building my strength is one of my goals for right now. So it's honestly kind of nice. My cardio is not as high as it is during the season, but I'm really just like in the weight room or like with dumbbells or doing stuff like that to kind of put on a little bit more muscle for next season.
Yeah, how different is like the workouts compared to at home from workouts with Greensboro?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot simpler. You can only do but so much. You don't have like a full weight room set or anything. So it's just like a lot of, back to the basics type of stuff. But it still works. It's no different.
Um, I know you have a basketball court at your house, right? Like a little basketball goal setup.
Yeah, I've got like a half court on some concrete, so it's pretty cool.
So have you been practicing out there a little bit too?
Yeah, it's funny though because like when I'm out there, or at least around Charlotte, I kind of live in like a wooded area and it gets really windy. So sometimes you'll be throwing it up and you kind of have to like guess where the wind's gonna take it. So like as far as like deeper threes and stuff like that, it's not really helpful. But just ball handling, floaters, stuff like that, just shooting around. It's just nice to just get the reps in.
Yeah, I noticed one of your TikTok videos that blew up. It was a pig game you played with your friend. You ended up losing that matchup. What made you decide to do that?
Oh man. So yeah, TikTok. So really I downloaded TikTok when the NBA quarantine thing started and we couldn't get into the gym. So I was in Greensboro and I was in my apartment for like 3 straight days, like hadn't gone to the gym. We weren't allowed to do anything. And I was like, man, like let me just see what TikTok's talking about. And I was just having fun with it. And then like, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks later, I had like a decent amount of followers and I was just getting traction doing like just funny stuff. And I really just it kind of opened my eyes to just seeing this is a new platform where I could really like grow my reach and my brand and stuff like that. And that's not how it started at all. So like that video, the one that you saw, was kind of just like me being intentional about what it looks like, just to have fun and still play basketball and just kind of show some other things of my life that I'm interested besides just playing in the G League or playing professionally.
Yeah, you started out, I believe it was like March 13th, and since then you've grown like I remember last night you were just at 200 like 10K followers. Now you're at 234K. So I mean that out of nowhere growth. What was that like?
Yeah. It doesn't feel real, bro, to be honest. Like I open my phone and like you as you can imagine, it's like kind of crazy. So I don't know. I just think it's really like cool just to see some of my passions. Like I'm really into like film and like Photoshop and just like joking around. Like I've been doing TikToks before the app even existed. So I just would send it to my friends, just because that's what I did naturally. So I think people really just see like how genuine I am on there, and it's like an extension of myself that's natural and it's not forced. And I think that's kind of helped a lot with my success. But I don't know, man. It's just like I got lucky with a couple of videos to blow up, and then it's gone up from there.
Yeah, one of your you mentioned making stories and stuff. One of your recent ones was the time machine. One of those videos got like 1.2 million views. So,
Yeah.
um, what went into that?
Like honestly, bro, like I said, just kind of trying to pass the time, messing around. It's nice being with my sister. She plays basketball for Florida Gulf Coast, so I really only see her like for the summer for like a week or two, and then for Christmas for like 4 days. And that's kind of how our relationship has been for the last 4 years while I was in school and she was in school. So it's been nice just spending some extra time with her. And that day I was just like, hey, let's make a video. And it's kind of crazy because that video, it's at like 5 million views now, and then they wanted a part two, and they wanted a part three. So we're wrapped up with that series for now.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's just me enjoying doing stuff other than basketball for a little bit.
Um, in the story writing, did that take like a lot of planning into that, or was that kind of just came about in one day?
Uh, Me and her were on the way to pick up some food, and I just said, "What's a story where I can just start it?" Like I kind of thought about the beginning and the ending, and kind of just figured it out along the way. So I wanted something that was like a whoa, like this is crazy moment, but I didn't know how to get there. So I kind of had the beginning and the end, and then it just worked out to be pretty cool.
Um, one of your other TikToks that semi blew up, it was the keep on climbing video. So what you brought up
Yeah.
in that was like it's not always easy growing up with a dad that was in the NBA. So can you share a little bit of that story with us?
Yeah, man. So that was it was pretty intentional what I did. And it's crazy because, so I guess we'll rewind back to one video before that. It was just like an introduction of like who I am as a person and stuff like that, because I'm looking to like move past just funny content that's kind of irrelevant. I want to just showcase a little bit of my life. And I didn't even think there'd be an audience for it, to be honest. I had a meeting with somebody and she was like, you need to tell people your story because that could probably do better than your videos that you just do for fun. So I thought about it, and like I'm I don't think I'm famous by any means. I really feel like people don't wouldn't care to hear about my story. But she opened my eyes to just like trying it and seeing the reception for it, and that's when Bleacher Report reposted my TikTok, and then that kind of inspired me to just have this be a consistent thing on my account. So yeah, I started this series called Keep Climbing, and I'm gonna do it like every Sunday, I think. And it's just gonna be a vlog, and it's gonna be me being transparent because basketball has ups and downs. You're not gonna have successful times. You're not gonna have terrible times all the time. So I just feel like people can learn from the life lessons and the things that I'm taking from the game, and they can apply it to their lives. Because at the end of the day, people's journey is different. Everybody doesn't just become a high major pick and go straight to the league. And people need to see that like what belief in yourself and what hard work looks like. And sometimes you have to live with the results of working hard and not getting that opportunity. That's also a very real reality that nobody talks about. So, whatever happens with my journey, I know I'm going to be in a good place, whether it's the league, whether it's overseas. Um, I'm just excited to just keep on, keep climbing. That's why I called it that. So yeah, that's a little bit of insight on that.
Um, you mentioned Bleacher Report reshared it.
Yeah.
Bleacher Report's a pretty big network. So what was that kind of like whenever they shared that for you?
Yeah, man. I was at the grocery store and I got back in my car and I just opened up Instagram just in the parking lot, and then my notifications, it just said like 99, 99, 99. And I was like, what? Like I thought it was like one of my TikToks. I thought one of those just did really well on TikTok, and I thought it was people coming from that platform to my Instagram. And then I looked at a couple stories and like people reposting my TikTok, and then I looked at the account and I was like, wait a minute, like that's like the actual Bleacher Report that threw it up, and it wasn't like in their story or anything. It was like a straight up shout out. So it was like really cool. And then there was a lot of like negative comments, and it was really tough to ignore those, which is the beginning. It starts off with the beginning of my Keep Climbing series. I kind of like shout out some of that negativity. um, it was tough just because like I didn't, I wasn't. I felt like I put a target on my back, so to speak, because it's like I'm not in the league. I did it on TikTok, so of course I kind of did like a clickbaity type of thing. Like, here's how I made it to the league, and the ending is like, oh, I'm not there yet, but like, guys, just follow me on my journey. Like, we're gonna learn some stuff. And I think the video that they reposted, a lot of people were just like, oh, this kid sucks. Like, who is he? And that wasn't really my intent to say like, oh, I'm there, I made it. But it was just kind of like an introduction to like who I am and where I'm trying to go. So there's going to be negativity online, but it was really tough to ignore the comments. But then a family friend kind of spoke to me and just put things into reality. So I'm doing a lot better. with that. It was like I didn't ask for all this negativity, and now it's just thrown in my face, and I had to deal with it in a certain way. So it was a learning experience for sure.
Was that negativity like something you've dealt with before in the past in schooling or anything, or was it just kind of like all new to you that it happened that fast?
Um, you don't really get straight up like comments, like hateful comments. Like you don't really get that. Like hate or negativity or adversity growing up might have looked like someone not believing in you, but they're not telling you straight to your face like nobody cares. Like it's not as mean as the internet can be. So it's definitely different seeing it from that perspective. But you just got to realize that these people just like for example, this is what my friend told me. He said, I go on Twitter and I like he'll hate KD on Twitter, but if he met him in real life, he'd want his autograph. So it's like, all right, so how much weight can I give these comments, and what do they really mean? And are they saying this about me as a person? And when you realize that, like I'm not in their life. They're just kind of projecting whatever feelings they have onto me. So I don't really like I'm over it now. But yeah, it was definitely a lot to handle at one time. I'll tell you that.
Um, One of the things you brought up in the Keep on Climbing, your first video was you brought up going to a D1 school, which was Yale, which most people that go into your path wouldn't do that. So,
Hmm.
can you talk a little bit about that decision?
Yeah, yeah. I guess just going back to high school, I wasn't like, I was pretty well recruited as far as like mid majors, but no one's putting me in a mock draft because of that. So I'm not gonna say like I'm not gonna say I was overlooked. I think for my skill set and stuff like that, I had a decent amount of offers to choose from. Uh, so I ended up just going to where I felt like I had the best chance to play right away and the best chance to impact the program and be a contributor for my whole career. Um, so yeah, Coach Jones and Yale, they really believed in me early on, and they were kind of true to what their plan was for me. I was a starter sophomore to senior year, which was very fortunate. Not a lot of guys have that opportunity, and I think I just grew as a player every year. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And it's crazy though because looking back at it, I don't think the Ivy League best suited my game on the court. They're more, slow. They're gonna run a half court set. They're gonna, use the clock. They're gonna just attention to detail is crazy, and that really kind of hurt me from a statistics standpoint. As far as like, look at this kid's numbers. Like, I didn't have great numbers in college, but that wasn't a reflection of who I was as a player because we were winning games and I was just doing what we did to win. Um, so yeah, it's just like transitioning to the G League. It's a lot faster pace. I'm a little bit more athletic. I can hang with, high major guys from an athletic standpoint. So I've really enjoyed that flip flop. But to see where I started on paper, it kind of looks like a serious underdog story, way more than I've always viewed for myself because I've always been this person. It's just it didn't show from on the stat sheet from the beginning. So it is what it is.
Yeah. You played all 4 years at Yale, so most people that go into like the G League or enter into the draft, they don't usually go that path. They usually go about one and done or 2 years is
Mhm.
most of the time. So, what influenced your decision to go all 4 years?
Man, just the degree, like just to graduate. And obviously if I would have had a season where I averaged 18, 20, I might not, be having this conversation. So yeah, it was just a product of like my numbers weren't crazy and I just really wanted to get an Ivy League degree because that's going to be more important when basketball is over than what basketball is doing for me. So
What did you major in for your degree?
sociology, but I don't I don't have plans to like be a sociology teacher or anything. It's just kind of like I use the network and learned a lot of stuff while I was there.
So with going into the draft, you did enter in the draft after your senior year of college, correct?
Yeah, like technically, like I didn't declare for the draft, but I think I was an eligible player because I had a pre-draft workout. But I wasn't expecting to get picked up or anything. My goal was just summer league, if possible, and G League.
So what was that experience kind of like with the whole process of like possibly making it to the NBA, even going to the G
Mhm.
League?
Yeah. Um, So I'm not gonna lie. I thought that my route was gonna be go overseas, prove myself, and then come back to the G League. Like I was ready to go to a smaller overseas market, get my numbers up, and then come back. And that summer, this past summer, I guess, I was just working out with a bunch of different guys and guys that were in the league, guys that were in the G League, and I was getting feedback from just people that coach in the G League and are around the NBA, and also my agent who I ended up finding like mid-July. And he was just kind of like, everybody was just giving me confidence, like more confidence that I really needed. And it's not like I didn't believe in myself, but I definitely appreciated that push to like say, hey, stay in the G League, because you're taking a gamble. Because overseas, that season starts in August or September. And the G League season doesn't start until October. At the end of October is when training camp is. So if you say, hey, I'm going to go to the G League, and you don't get picked up, you missed out on a lot of overseas opportunities because they're 2 months into their season already. So it was a gamble. It was kind of like I had to bet on myself and just trust that everybody's advice was good and that I was going to be good enough and be ready to get picked up. So, yeah.
How different is it like playing in the G League compared to playing in college and then playing in high school? I mean, what's the experience level like?
Um, yeah, I don't even want to talk about high school. high school was an interesting time. My team, for reference, my high school team had no other player that played after high school, so it wasn't like a powerhouse situation at all. Then college, I guess the main difference is just that everybody's more athletic from the first guy to the last guy on the bench. Like everybody is an elite athlete for the most part, unless you're just an incredible shooter or a 7-footer. Um, Everybody can get up and down. So I think that's the main difference. Ivy League's honestly a little bit harder to score, I feel like, because there's less defense in the G League. Like that's the stigma on the G League or whatever. But there's just a lot more attention to like the scouting report defensively in the Ivy League. The help defense is incredible in the Ivy League. Like you're not just getting an easy layup. You're going to have 3 guys like sliding over, textbook perfect help defense. They're taking a charge and it's going the other way. The G League is kind of just like more ISO oriented, ball screen, make a read, pass the ball, swing, someone's getting a shot up. It's not really as slow. So that's the main difference. But the main difference is just athleticism, and guys can hit shots. They're good scorers.
What did it mean to you once you got picked up by once you got the offer to go to the Swarm?
To the Swarm, yeah. So it was cool, bro. Honestly, I was a little so for context, I actually got drafted in the G League draft by Chicago. So the G League draft was the end of October. Chicago picked me up, and I got waived after training camp because they had some two-way guys from Denver who don't have a G League team. So it was kind of like the roster was crowded. There was a lot of returners, and I just wasn't good enough to make that cut. So I got let go, and then I went home, and I was just at home working out. And then Greensboro gave me a practice player opportunity. Like I wasn't paid. I wasn't like on the roster. I literally just showed up. I stayed at one of my friends' apartments in Greensboro, and I would practice with them. And I did that for like 2 weeks. And they were like, okay, cool. My agent was just telling me, they like me, but there's no room on the roster. So that was kind of like what a couple months looked like. Hey, they like you, but they're not going to make a move because they don't have roster space. So I was like, yo, quit playing games. Like, just send me overseas at this point. Like, I'd rather just go play. I'm tired of working out at home. I want to play. And he was just telling me to be patient. And sure enough, towards the end of the season, Joe Cheely got called up. And then my agent was just like, yo, pack your bag. So it felt good to just have my persistence rewarded. Everybody told me I could make it here. And to be able to get there was just like, a deep breath, but it was also just like I had to be ready for my next opportunity. There was no time to celebrate. I had to like actually prove myself like I had been telling myself I could do the entire year.
Within the roster, do you often hear amongst people where it's like, I'm hoping to get called up to the league one day? Like, is that something that goes on amongst conversation?
Definitely. I mean, it's not like like we don't just sit around and say like, oh yeah, like I'm about to get, no one's like, that's not the direct topic of conversation.
Yeah.
But that's everybody's goal, and the coaches acknowledge that. Like we'll acknowledge that in a film session. The coach will say everybody in this room is trying to get to the next level, and that's kind of just like an understanding we all have.
Within your team, I know there's some players that have been in the G League that are like 30s. Is your team more of a young orientated, or is it a little bit older guys too?
Can you repeat that? It like went in and out.
Oh yeah. So is your team a little bit more youth orientated, or is it more older guy orientated?
Yeah. Um, Let me think. I think for the most part, it's like younger guys. It's like first and second year guys. Then we've got a couple of vets, but you're right. It's the most majority is like guys who left early from college.
So you've been around anybody that's been called up to the league?
Um, not in the Swarm locker room, not like as it happened, but my teammate from Yale, he is a member on the Jazz, so he goes back and forth between the Stars and the Jazz pretty frequently. But he's on roster with the Jazz.
Um, so what do you remember his reaction being whenever he found out that he made it to the league?
Yeah, yeah. So he was like the second to last pick in the draft, and we all went crazy. But he knew that wasn't a guarantee for a roster spot. He knew his biggest thing was he didn't want to leave school early because he left after his junior year. He didn't want to leave school early to only end up in the G League. He was like, if I'm gonna go, I need to make the roster. Um, so yeah, he just that was his main thing. Like he had no plan B. He needed to make the roster. So it was a process, but he worked really hard and he knew he'd be able to do it. He's a good shooter, 6'6", athletic. So it's just a lot of work that goes into it.
Um, so I want to go on a little bit about your background
Hmm.
as like a family. So your family's always grown up around the Charlotte culture. You guys have been there all your life. Your dad was an ex Charlotte Hornet player. He's the
Hmm.
only player with the jersey retired by them, correct?
Hmm.
So, what's that feeling like knowing that your dad has the only jersey retired by the Hornets?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I I didn't feel the weight of it until his retirement ceremony for one. And then honestly, recently, The Last Dance, watching that Jordan documentary, episode 7 and 8, they played the Hornets in the playoff series. And looking at that, like just looking at that atmosphere and seeing like that 90s basketball, I think that was one of Charlotte's like best teams ever. Like at least top 3 or 4. So I didn't really realize like how big of a role he had on one of Charlotte's best teams ever. So that was like kind of cool just to be like, oh wow, like they put it in perspective to what it would be like if he was in the league today. Like I'd be able to see like, okay, he's on a playoff hunting team and he's a starter in the East. Like that's like a big deal. He's not just like some role player that nobody really knows of. So seeing that in The Last Dance kind of put it into perspective more than ever. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, man, it's a blessing that like people know our family's name around the city if you're a little bit older. But I don't really think about it all the time. Like I said, I don't really feel like I'm a celebrity or anything. It's just like I have a story and people are familiar with it.
I remember hearing in one of the interviews you had with the news station was it was a guy that was like a couple years older than you. He sent you a jersey, I believe it was, of your dad's, and said that he looked up to you as an inspiration. So was that kind of like surreal for you in any type of way?
Oh man, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say surreal, but like it's just like I'm just thankful, honestly. I'm just thankful that, of all the things to happen after he passed, it could have went a million directions and I just feel like I ended up in a pretty good direction. So yeah, bro, I'm just like thankful and like really just humbled when people reach out to me and say nice things like that.
As your family, have you kind of grown up close to the Charlotte organization, or like over time it's kind of like gone away?
Um, we definitely still like basketball is such a small community, bro. So we have people that we've been family friends with who were like players at the time who are now in coaching or the front office. Um, and that just goes across the whole league because they're everywhere now. It's not just like they're stuck with Charlotte. So yeah, we know a couple with Charlotte, but it's not like we have a constant relationship with the whole staff. But we definitely have them in our network.
Um, so a little bit back to the G League.
Mm-hmm.
With meeting with the front office, is that kind of intimidating? Because I've always wondered that as like someone that watches the NBA and seeing the G League players, it's like I feel like it's got to be a little intimidating meeting these guys at the front office because you don't know whether or not they're going to sign you. So, how would you describe it?
Um, Bro, I feel like I wouldn't think it's intimidating at all. Like you as a professional athlete, you start to learn like what a pro looks like and what front offices are looking for. And a lot of times it's not the most talented guy that ends up on a roster. It's not the guy who scores 50 that ends up on an NBA roster. It's other things like, how you treat the staff, like your character, your work ethic, your coachability, and just like who you are as a person. Like are you a locker room guy? So yes, your talent has to be there. Obviously, you have to be good enough, but basketball is just a small part of like making the roster. So like from my perspective, I'm not really intimidated. My focus is just being the best player I can be, and they'll like me for who I am off the court, and that's a bonus. So I'm not like, oh, will they call me up, blah blah blah. Like obviously you have to perform, that's a given, but it'll take care of itself if you just put in the work. So I'm not really tripping over getting called up every night in and night out. Obviously it's in the back of my mind, but I'm just taking it baby steps.
Um, so all your life you've kind of been an underrated player. So, how was it kind of like trying to work towards getting your name out there, like letting people know that you're not just
Yeah, man. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's where the whole politics of basketball really is pro basketball. That's where the politics kind of kick in because there's great players who just don't have the right representation, who don't get your name in front of the right people. And I got really like I don't believe in like luck per se, but like I was like really fortunate to run into my current like who I'm currently signed with. The only reason I am signed with him is because I was at a random gym in New York City. I was at Columbia University just like working out by myself. And someone saw my shorts. I had on like Charlotte Hornets shorts. Not even like the team gave me anything. They were just Hornet shorts. And Columbia University had a player who previously played for the Swarm. So we were just small talking about that guy, and I brought up his agent, and I ended up getting signed to his agent. So that agent, his name is BJ Bass, and he runs RBA Sports out of New York, and he is a fighter, and he will just blow up like front office GMs, like G League GMs, and he has a great relationship with a lot of places. So if I didn't run into him, I'd probably be in Lithuania right now, just like mad I can't come home to the US. Like if I didn't have him fighting for me on my behalf, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Obviously my work ethic and whatever got me, a job, but he definitely fought for my opportunities. He's the one that got me the practice player gig, my unpaid internship, so to speak. So like I don't even remember the question to be honest, but I think you get the idea of just like
yeah.
there's politics that go into it. It's not just like at the end of the day, you have to have somebody that is connected if you're looking to play pro basketball, unless you're just a top tier talent and everybody's looking at you.
You brought up agent. I feel like most casual people watching the NBA and G League and overseas basketball, they're all like, agents are just kind of there. They don't do much, but I mean, they do. I feel like some people don't realize as much as they do. So, how would you describe your connection with your agent?
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where like he's working as hard as he's working so that he can give me an opportunity, and I'm working super hard so that I don't make him look bad as an agent. Like it's a two-way, like we both feed off of each other. He can't be out here fighting for me and then I get my shot and I look crazy, like, and I look like I don't belong. That's bad look on his part. Obviously I'm playing for myself, but it is a relationship where you have to just like you're both bringing your best foot forward and you're going to work together so that I can do well on the court, which helps him do well as an agent. So yeah, it's just constant communication. You have to like them as a person because you do have back and forth a lot. It's just as far as just like catching up on life and stuff. So yeah, that helps too.
I want to go into the season a little bit. I believe your season was cut short,
Mhm.
correct? Due to the virus.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
once that announcement was made, what was that kind of like for you?
Yeah, I was kind of pissed because I had just got there. I had just gotten into a groove. Well, I had been there for a little while, but we didn't have any practices or anything until like a week after I got signed. So, because we had so many games back to back. So I finally got my practices in. I was getting rotation minutes. I was getting like 12 minutes a game. Um, and like I said, to start this whole interview is like that game shape that you can't replicate. You can only replicate that by playing basketball. And, you know, me playing at the Charlotte YMCA is not going to replicate me playing in a G League game. So like, I felt like after a few games, I was finally like getting my lungs back and being able to be ready to perform. And I had a couple good games in a short stretch and a lot of good plays. I felt like getting those last 8 or 9 games taken away hurts me a little bit, but it's out of my hands. I can't really be mad. I got my opportunity and I have great like momentum heading into next year. And that's what I can, you know, be happy about for this year. So honestly, I'm just looking forward to next year. I can't dwell on those missed games, but it
Yeah.
definitely would have helped.
How do you think it's going to affect the league going forward, the virus outbreak?
Man. Um, well, one thing I've been thinking about a lot is just like if they don't continue this season, because the new collective bargaining agreement for like the money and the TV deals and contracts, that's next year, this upcoming season.
Yeah.
So like I just really hope it doesn't affect that severely if we don't continue the NBA. But it's not like no one really knows except for front office guys and LeBron and Chris Paul and stuff. So like man, it's like it's whatever, bro. I'm just gonna work on myself as a player and then be ready
Yeah.
for whenever the season starts back up.
I remember at the beginning of the interview you mentioned going into the summer league, hoping to play for that.
Mhm.
Is that a goal or you will be eligible to play for the summer league this summer, correct?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what are you looking forward to about that?
I mean, like I gotta prove myself again. It's like you can never rest. I tell myself sometimes like rent is due every day. So there's no like period where you can just coast. You always have to prove yourself. So if I do get a there's a training camp for the summer league. If I do get a training camp invite to summer league, then I have to just go and be ready to kill it. And I don't know. That's really my mindset on that.
Um, I'm gonna go ahead and end the interview here, but I do want to thank you for coming on and doing this with me. Um, it's great to see your story. You're coming about and some people's thoughts about you and how you've proved them wrong. So it's amazing to see what you're doing. So again, thank you for coming on and doing this.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate your questions. They're dope. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. But if you want to check out the Shot Clock podcast, you can check us out on Instagram at the Shot Clock Pod. You can check us out on Twitter and Facebook as well. So be sure to keep updated on our next podcast episode. Again, thank you for coming on, and that's all we have.